One of the overriding considerations in my life has been a desire not to be on the wrong side of the Kennedy assassination. I've always felt very badly to have lost my childhood uh, lamplight of faith in who I am and what the world around me contains and what the leadership of my country aspires to. I have learned over the years that a lot can be understood from seeing the side that is exhibited by those who couldn't care less. Jack Ruby was a nightclub owner who had a strip joint that was frequented by the Dallas Police Department. Because he knew Oswald, and Oswald was chosen by General Edwin Walker and Allen Dulles to represent their familiar, Oswald Mosley, the leader of the British Union of Brown Shirts, the British Union of Fascists. As a namesake, we can say that there was a characteristic about the operation that ties Jack Ruby to Oswald Mosley. And this is an old story from an old school because Liverpool is where the Confederate Secret Service would meet during the war between the states that we know as the Civil War, who went on to kill Abraham Lincoln. So there's an interlocking social tie of heritage between Liverpool and the Confederacy that sprang its trap in Dallas that day. I was told by a stepkin, nobody ever went broke underestimating the taste of the American people, which he attributed probably correctly to H.L. Mencken, a ribald sort. Well, certainly nobody ever went broke or was tortured to death underestimating the taste of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The mentality of slander and character assassination that comes out of the mentality of Jack Ruby's crowd honoring John Wilkes Booth, as they did in Reagan's movie, which was directed by Raoul Walsh, who played John Wilkes Booth, if I'm not mistaken, in Birth of the Nation. Reagan film called Dangerous Journey with Errol Flynn. Maybe you think I'm exaggerating to say that they did honor to the man who played, it was either Jefferson Davis or John Wilkes Booth in Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation glamorized the rise of the Ku Klux Klan. It's a pretty solid fact of American history. I've always wanted to be on the right side of it. It seems to me not sniveling and doing this sort of thing at people over their private sex lives helps keep me on the right side of the character issue in the murder of JFK. In Pittsburgh, you'll see all sorts of people who you would think would be on the Kennedy side, crossing lines over the issue of sniveling at people about their sex lives, which of course became a snowball effect when it resulted in the abomination that no one wants to discuss anymore at all. The creation of a tabula rasa from the British. It seems to me that there's more to a man's morality than who he sleeps with. A good deal more to it. True, you can fault public education for not discussing the honor code that is built into the military surveillance police state we now live in. Miseducating people is a way of destroying a society. It's a way of torturing people, misleading and ensnaring the young. And that's what we witnessed happen because of Access Hollywood, the creation of D.W. Griffith and Ronald Reagan, which assassinated JFK. That's all the evidence shows. And it's now in even more sinister hands with men like Oliver Stone. Hollywood is pretty awful. Hollywood pushed our society into sexual license while setting up the abomination, and they laughed. Seems to them that it was just the genocide option. Well, I'm 62, and I know that this machine of administration in the universities and corporations in Hollywood that pulled this fast one, the bonus to the abomination. Never gave any serious thought to restraining themselves, to teaching properly in schools, developing eco schools, the dangers of excessive addiction to things like fossil fuel. They went on strike against solar energy. They went on strike against solar energy because they wanted to create a forcing house and stage what the Axis perceived as America's built-in self-destruction mechanism, which is the hysteria, often lampooned, surrounding the book of Revelations in the New Testament. Now, the British are too smart to fall for something like that, but they're not too moral not to participate. And Duke Edward or King Edward, the Duke of Windsor, who was so friendly to Hitler that helped him get away, whirl around, jump around, hop just so. And in the heat of old Jim Crow, take away our president. I often wonder if we don't admit what happened to Kennedy because by creating a false story for children, lies, we tell children. Do we avoid humiliation that way? Is it a greater humiliation to forcefully face up to what has been done? Maybe we're afraid of a form of backlash that would be unpardonable to the memory of JFK and Martin Luther King if we admit the Texas school book? Does that excuse our going along with it, victimizing their families, lying and landing on the wrong side of the assassination itself? Doesn't sound right to me. People say it's a question of character with JFK. He was a great hero.